meetings. My question is, then where's the minutes? If we had all these meetings saying that we liked them, that teachers vetted them, that we looked at them, that we think they're the slickest thing since sliced bread, then I say, where are the minutes? Because I still haven't seen any minutes. I've asked and I've asked and I've asked. There are no minutes. There are no minutes because I don't believe we ever vetted a thing.
Right.
I believe that Keith Rowe said, we'll take the standards and we'll apply for the money, because he said in a interim, I believe it was an interim meeting, I have to check, but it was November 2009, and I get confused about the dates when we're in session, we're not in session. But he went before the Education Committee, and Joyce Woodhouse was the chair at that time in November 2009, and I can direct you to the minute. And he told the committee at that time, if we apply for the RTTP money, the Race to the Top money, the standards are not voluntary. So it's on the record. It is public record for the state of Nevada. It is not voluntary. We have to take the standards if we apply for the money. That was in November of 2009. Now follow me. In March of 2010, Governor Gibbons convened his Blue Ribbon Task Force and said, we're going to take a look at the standards. Well, la-di-da, who cares? You've already signed on for them. You've already accepted them. You already said you're going to apply for the money. Keith Rowe signed his name in May of 2009. So the Blue Ribbon Task Force of 2010, with Elaine Wynn and a handful of other people, was nothing more than window dressing.
Right. They were
in my opinion, that was just insulting to the people of Nevada.
They were just doing a dog and pony show trying to appease the masses and not
Absolutely.
ruffle feathers anymore.
Yeah, well, that's one of the
Absolutely.
things.
Like if you go all the way back into the history of schools in general, like the idea that you're getting a public education was actually the least reason, the lowest of the reasons of why they created the public schools. So it's really been like that from the beginning. It's like they tempt you with this promise of something, but they have this real agenda that they're doing.
Well, for my part, I have to say I've been naive, because I've always believed that our government was there to look out for us, to take care of us, that we paid our taxes and we picked the right people. And the last couple of years have told me that is not, has been happening. And I've been so disappointed, so disgusted. And Senator Harris still has not answered my calls. She's not answered my emails. She has not given me any reasonable explanation whatsoever why she has stood silent on the subject of Common Core, and to give me the marketing pitch that they're higher standards and the kids in Nevada are going to benefit from this dog and pony show, from this carrot and stick that we just swallowed whole. It's nothing more than snake oil. And to ignore the people after apparently she told some of her constituents. I have friends who live in her district.
I live in her district. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've spoken directly to these people. They're friends of mine from church, said that she knocked on their door and told them to their face she would do everything in her power to get rid of Common Core. She got their vote on a lie, got herself into the Senate, got herself into the education chair seat, and then refused to hear the one solid bill we had to remove Common Core from the state of Nevada. She is unfit for office, in my opinion. I am disturbed by her behavior.
Oh, she's awful. When they were campaigning my area, her district, her people were really relentless, to the point where I made my own little signs on the shit that they would leave on my door, and little notes about her and how I didn't agree with her, because her Common Core stance is not her only fault. She's really bad in a lot of areas. I cannot believe that she got in, but actually in reality I can, because they're put in to screw us and go after big business. I wanted to ask you, what do you think of, now I was reading back when we were learning about the data mining and how they have some testing where they will do MRI scans and like look at the brain waves and how the kids react to testing, how they get stressed out, and start putting them in different groups of from that data from testing and whatnot, that they'll put them in more like worker bee groups. Is that a conspiracy, or do you know anything about that theory?
Honestly, Tasha, I have not heard anything about MRIs, so I don't want to speak to that. And if it is tinfoil hat time, I certainly don't want to add to it. I want to speak to
right.
I want to speak to solid issues. Now, I have heard about wristbands, where they might put wristbands on children to test stress levels. I have not heard about MRIs. I do know that. I do know there's a lot of concern out there right now about social and emotional testing, social and emotional learning, that has already been implemented in Northern Nevada. Washoe County has implemented that, and they have already brought that forward to the legislature. They presented that back in April.
What is that?
2014.
Social.
That's some scary stuff. That is some really scary stuff. That's George Orwell. That's 1984. That is, get your kids out of the classroom now, because, in my opinion, and I testified in front of Joyce Woodhouse in 2004 on this, 2014 on this as well. So did Amy Balk, and much has been written since then by some people you want to follow. Is Dr. Karen Efron out of Florida. You want to follow Jane Robbins on this, a few other people, Robin Eubanks, Anita Hogue, I think is how you pronounce it, Hoge. They're all, not only are they degreed, but they're all very much out front of this issue. It is some scary stuff. Social and emotional learning is where people start to decide how your child should think.
Right.
So instead of the 3 R's, we are moving into an area that is way outside the purview of public education. How your child should think, what they should think, how they're feeling, what they should feel. I mean, I'm going to give you an example, and this is just completely my type of example, nothing that I've read. Again, I don't have my documents in front of me. How do you feel about the color green? You know, what do you care how my kid feels about the color green? All I want to know is that he can recognize the color green and he can spell it. You know,
right.
How he feels about it is none of your business. You know what I mean? So this is the type of thing where I think we have really overstepped our bounds in public education. And then we look at test scores and we think, well, gosh, Johnny can't read, Johnny can't spell, Johnny can't add 4 plus 4. But we know that Johnny feels badly when he sees the color green. Okay, well, gosh, guys, I think I have my fingers on the pulse of the math problems in the state of Nevada.
Right.
We are focused on the wrong things, and this is why I think we're seeing an uptick in homeschooling. I talk to people a lot, and I hear from moms on Facebook. And you see every so often you see 2 or 3 more families say, "Yep, I'm pulling them. Yep, I'm done." Or I'm going to a Christian school, or I'm going to a faith-based school. Even if they're not faith-based family, they still want to get out because they feel like they have more control over the curriculum, or they have more of a voice, or they're hoping to have more of a voice. They're willing to take that chance, which is why I think this ESA bill that did get passed, Scott Hannah's ESA bill that was passed this last session, is getting so much attention, not only in Nevada, but across the nation, because it might make a change in the public classrooms as well.
What do you think about that ESA bill, and can you explain it at all to our listeners? They passed this bill. It's about charter schools and private schools, and if you want to homeschool, they'll give you so much money, I believe, right? If your kids were already in public school, then you could...
It's not. I think your best bet, honestly, Tasha, is to ask Scott Hammond to come on and talk to you about it. I'm sure he would love to, especially because you're a nonpartisan show. In a nutshell, the money will follow the children. I'm going to give you the number of $5,000, give or take. It's probably a few pennies over that. Each child is allotted through the treasurer, I believe, $5,000 to go with them to the school or the homeschool of their choice. It goes into an account. They're not just handed $5,000 in cash, of course.
Right.
But If you have a child with a particular special need and those needs are not being met at public school, you should be able to take your child and have him or her schooled at a place or an institution where you can get something better for them or something you prefer for them. It should be a parental choice. And that's really what Common Core boils down to for me, is I feel like our parental choices are being taken away. And I think the ESA is a huge step in that direction to give parental choice back to the parents.
Well, I do know a lot of the homeschooling moms, like Alyssa Walsh. She's huge with the Nevada Homeschool Network. She is one of the major people that started and made way for other parents in this community to have such a good, huge homeschooling community. I was shocked when we started homeschooling about how many resources and how much support we really had. And she was part of starting all that. Now, I remember seeing something not too long ago, and I don't really remember why she was against it, but a lot of the homeschool parents were like, don't take the money, there's strings attached. If you take that money from them to homeschool, they then have, a foot in the door to tell you what you have to be homeschooling, and you have to report certain things to them. So a lot of my friends are very much, they don't want government involved in their children's schooling at all. So they are super against the ESA, even though, of course, I have one friend, she has like 9 kids. Could you imagine $5,000 per 9 kids? Like, that's a good education right there. So in 1 year, that's what she would get if she did it. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. There's major strings attached to that. I just don't remember more of why everybody was against it, except for, that kind of lets the government's foot in the door and telling you how to homeschool your children.
Yeah. Well, again, let me say 2 things to that. First of all, I go back to what I said initially. Talk to Scott Hammond. It's his bill. He wrote it. He knows what his intent is. Mm-hmm. And secondly, I absolutely understand the reservation about anyone wanting to have government too deep into their lives. And all I can say is the government has only the government to blame, because they have proven themselves to be sketchy in some areas. And I mean, it's hard to defend the government right now, especially today with some of the things that are going on. And I go back to the social and emotional learning. I don't want the government poking around on my kids' heads. That's not why I sent them to school. And I look right now to I'm sure, have you spoken to Erin Phillips, who I've just come to adore? I have so much regard for her and what she's been doing. The whole parent to parent, power to parent movement. Excuse me, I said that incorrectly. Power to parent movement that has popped on the scene since the sexuality curriculum that Clark County School District tried to sneak past us late last year.
No, I haven't heard of her. And how did that go? Did they pass that sex ed? Because I remember a lot of people were upset about the Common Core sex ed, as they were calling it, and I just didn't know if it went through.
Yeah, I don't know that it's fair to call it Common Core sex ed. I do think it's probably part of the initiative, part of the whole education initiative that the government is trying to get past us. You could probably loosely tie it into Common Core through one particular organization that has said that I forget, it's FOISA, I forget who has said inside their documentation that they have based it on the Common Core somehow through the ELA. I'm not sure. It's kind of loose. I think honestly, I believe that particular organization was trying to cash in on Common Core when they thought the nation's parents were so stupid we were all buying into it. But no, the curriculum, you would have to check with Erin, and I will shoot you her contact information because she is dynamite, and you definitely need to get her on your show.
Okay, great. Yeah.
But that curriculum is awful. I've read it start to finish, and no one needs to know at 8 years old or 9 years old about an invasive surgery, regardless of what that surgery is. Anytime you need to talk to an invasive surgery, that should be done in the home. But just sexual education or sexual curriculum, anything more than Johnny has these parts and Susie has those parts, I think really should be done by the parents, or at least have the show the parents the respect